Welcome back for another episode of Civility Wins, the Family Law Edition. I am your host, Kristen Goss, founder and owner of KWG Family Legal and Mediation Services. We are your knowledgeable, warm, and gracious attorneys. And I have with me a very good friend and colleague, Maria Castillo Dominguez. She's a financial wealth advisor. And I'm going to give a little brief snippet of her. She is the founder of Valoria Wealth Management, financial planning for women seeking a wealthy life full of freedom, flexibility, and purpose. Thank you for joining me, Maria.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you for being here. So, share with the audience a little bit about your personal journey as a financial wealth advisor, and then we'll get a little bit more in depth on the professional side.
Sure. So I'll give you a mini 2-minute version. I was born and raised in Spain, in the south of Spain, in a very humble family. I made it to the US. I'll try to keep it short. I made it to the US in my mid-20s. I was the first person to go to college in my family, so I didn't know what to do. So I went through the business side, business degree. I did a master's in finance. I started working in banking there. Life took me to the US, and it was when I was here when I started learning about financial planning, because in Spain we don't have such a thing. We don't have, unless you're really, really wealthy, there is not much planning to do. And it was when I came here that I started learning a little bit through the work. I started working for a big brokerage firm, and I started learning a little bit more about actually financial planning and personal financial planning and wealth management. And it was through that I started getting my licenses, and I became a financial consultant. And then I worked for a boutique style, helping divorcees and widows mostly. And that helped me launch, through all the knowledge I gained, helped me launch my own firm that I have today, which is Valoria Wealth Management.
I think that's phenomenal. I know when you were discussing doing that and that transition, and I just think, audience, she is inspirational for so many reasons, but thank you for sharing your story. I'm sure people can relate to that. And it is scary,
Yes.
branching out on your own, but once you do it, it's so worthwhile. And I'm saying that because I know that we have a lot of audience members who are business entrepreneurs, to just encourage you to continue to do what you're doing. And we'll get into the good stuff now. So as a financial wealth advisor, from a professional standpoint, I know that a lot of your clients are women, and they can be the breadwinner at times. And so as a divorce attorney, oftentimes I do get the breadwinner who is a woman, and she's concerned about the children. Sometimes they have young children. So she's concerned about the children, very logical, forward thinking, has done the work in therapy, has the children in therapy, but is also concerned about finances, wanting to maintain as much as possible, and not really sometimes knowing the direction to take, knowing that she may have to pay spousal support, but not as, just wanting to know what is legally, what do I have to pay versus what I don't, and for how long, right? But from the financial wealth standpoint, how do you work with women business owners, or women in general, who are the breadwinners and who find themselves going through a divorce?
Very good question. So once they reach that point where they're considering divorce, one of the first things that I always talk about is let's look at what are the divorce options. And that is something that they usually talk to a family law attorney like you, right? It's very different to do it yourself versus going through mediation or go all the way to litigation, right? So what type, where are we fitting here? Because the financial impact is going to be very different if you go all the way to litigation versus if you keep it more civilized, let's say. So that's one of the first things that I told to them about, is like, what are we looking here? And let's consult with a family law attorney to see what the options are and what the financial impact could be. And once we get a little bit clear, one of the first things that we do is organize all the financials, meaning what is everything that we have, from bank accounts to investment accounts, real estate, other investments, even your cars. everything. What is everything that we have? And we put everything on a list, right? On a balance sheet. What is everything that is going to affect this? And I want to make a point here into separate property versus marital property, right? You have to disclose everything. You just have to disclose it. But there are two separate things. One is separate property, and some people, get confused like, what is this? Separate property mostly is what you acquire before marriage or things like inheritance. As long as you don't commingle, like if you have something like a savings account and then you get married and then you commingle it, meaning you mix it with the marital assets, and then there are people, your spouse contributing, etc., that is entering the gray area where it's not going to be considered separate property anymore. But those are two things that, if you have kept records of you have always kept it on your own, that's separate property. If you can prove that it's yours, that is one asset that, it can go your way, basically. Something to take in consideration too is Florida is considered a common law state, right? So that means, what are the rules in Florida? Because divorce governs by the state laws. The common law state says that things are going to be divided fairly, but not necessarily equally. That's the states in Florida. And they are going to take in consideration things like who earned the money. Did one person give up their career to support the family, to be present for the family? Many different things that are going to be taken in consideration versus, if you fall in another state. And I'm bringing this up because we have a lot of transplants from another places.
Yeah.
And I'm going to make an example. We have people moving from California. I moved from California, right? California is a community property state. What that means is things are going to be divided 50-50, regardless who earned it. So if you were in California, you acquire a lot of assets there, and then you move here, those assets are still community property, unless you came here and you changed that legally, and you both agreed to that. So there are, a lot of different things that you have to take in consideration, and that's why it's important to go item by item. What is everything that you have? When was acquired? Did you acquire this in another state? And how is this going to look like, basically? The other thing that we do is go through the numbers, right? Meaning, what is your income? What is your income, your spouse income, the expenses, and what this is going to look like post-divorce, because it's a huge change, right? So we're going to be looking at how can we maintain the lifestyle as close as possible as what you have today. So it's a very good point at stopping and looking at everything, your income, your expenses, everything that comes in and out of your accounts, basically. One of the things too is women, we tend to care for the home, right? So most women tend to the home. Especially when they have kids, they don't want to break that from them, right? It's already a big change for the family. So one of the things that they always talk about is, I want to keep my home. And that is an important part, especially if there is a couple that both contributed to the finances. Well, let's look at what are the expenses for the home, and can you afford to keep the home or not? So it is important to keep the home if it's important to you, but we cannot disregard everything else. For example, things like retirement, you need to be prepared for that. So it's important to look at everything and not just the home. And especially if you had two incomes, is one gonna be able to keep up with the expenses of the homes that you currently have? Or is it gonna be an asset that is gonna have to be sold? And if so, what are the tax consequences? And there are certain things that you can do to avoid tax consequences on that. And if it has to be sold, when is the optimal time to sell the home so you avoid capital gains, etc., etc. There is a lot to take in consideration, so it's important to look item by item. And one last thing I want to mention is you have to be very aware, and you know that, Kristen, of the limitations once you file for divorce and once the divorce is finalized. So during that time, there are laws that prevent you from doing certain things. For example, disposing or selling assets. And that includes even investment accounts. So you can do the regular maintenance of your accounts, rebalance your account if it's out of balance, but you cannot do major changes without the consent of the other person. So just know that, yeah, you have to take everything, very important to take everything in consideration, but once you file, there will be some limitations, certain things that you cannot do, life insurance. You cannot cancel the life insurance. You cannot change life insurance because you may be mad at your spouse or whatever that is. There are certain limitations, certain things that you cannot do during the divorce process, and then you can change after the divorce has been finalized. But it's important that everybody is aware of, hey, there are certain things that once I file, I'm not going to be able to change.
Great advice, you all. I hope you're listening out there because filing is key. That is so true. Coming from more of, I guess, twofold question from the divorce standpoint, oftentimes spouses have the same financial advisor when they're pending a divorce, and especially after the divorce is finalized, because they want to go their separate ways. Maybe sometimes trust is lost. They don't want to keep the financial advisor. I'm sure you've come across that plenty of times. Yeah. So what advice can you share with the audience for a situation like that?
Yeah, so that happens a lot. And especially on the woman's side, because I see this all the time. The financial advisor has always been more in contact with the male, and when there is a divorce, in most cases it's the woman, not always, but in most cases it's the woman who has to find another financial advisor or wants to find another financial advisor. At that point, I think it's a good idea. It's a good idea. Keep things separate. If you do not have a relationship with that financial advisor, well, explore your options. And it's like going on a date, right? So you can interview multiple until you find your one. One of the things for me is interview people and find the one that aligns to what your vision is and that you feel connected with. Because at the end of the day, your financial advisor is going to know everything. Everything about your goals, about your frustrations, about what is important to you, your kids, etc. So it has to be someone that aligns to what you want, that has the expertise to serve you. It may be because you're a woman. And the truth is, financial planning for women is very different. And people don't think sometimes about this, but it is very different. Women, we tend to live longer. We need to plan for that. Longer retirement, the healthcare is different for us. It's more expensive for us. We go through different body changes, etc., that it requires more healthcare. And if you live a longer retirement, the truth is you need to plan also for longer healthcare, and the inflation on that is very high, right? And certain other things that you can, that you have to take in consideration when you are a woman, basically. It's just different. And then, just find someone that maybe it's a woman and you feel more confident with a woman, but also that has the expertise to serve you. What about if you're an executive, let's say, and you have equity compensation? Well, work with an advisor that understands equity compensation. It may be you're a business owner. Work with an advisor that understands business ownership, the taxation, the difficulties, the cash flow, etc., because there is a lot to take in consideration. And also, one thing that I wanna mention is ask these financial advisors that you are interviewing, how are they compensated? How are they compensated? How they make money? They may be on a flat fee, meaning you pay them a specific amount every month or every quarter. It may be assets under management or maybe commissions. So if it's commissions on what? Is there a conflict of interest? Are you going to try to sell me something that maybe not the best for me? So understand how they get compensated. What are the scope of their services? What are they going to be doing for you? Is it just investments? Because there is a lot of advisors out there. It's not bad. It's just that's what they do. They do investments, right? But you may want to do a lot more. You may want to plan for cash flow. You may want to plan to help me get I want to retire early, and I also want to buy an investment property or a second home. How do I get all of this? So find an advisor that helps you determine what are the buckets where you should be saving to accomplish your goals. That helps you with tax planning, tax mitigation strategies, that help you with estate planning. How do I protect my family? So don't be afraid to ask the questions, until you find someone. If it takes 2, 3, 5 interviews, so be it. It's like, it's an important relationship that you're going to have to. So don't stop until you find the one that you say, this is my person.
So true. So true. Thank you. I want to take a step back and stay with the family law theme for a minute. Collaborative divorce. That's something that started in 1990, but it was a statute that was enacted in 2017 for those of you who don't know out there in Florida. And in the collaborative process, nothing is filed for a divorce until we have finalized everything and a resolution has come to be. And so you mentioned filing earlier, and oftentimes we do work with financial advisors such as yourself in a more holistic way. And a lot of the things that you're sharing is something that I think oftentimes is neglected in a litigated setting. Once the case is filed, start moving really fast. There's certain deadlines that have to be made. Of course, you have to exchange financial information. But the one thing I could say about the collaborative process and someone going through a collaborative divorce, it's empowering. And I think we're women and we work with women a lot of times, to be able to just sit down and think about things and strategize and the questions that people may have later on, after you sit down and you've processed a little bit more, it makes it helpful and I think more holistic, being able to do that outside of court. So I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah.
But from the estate planning side, oftentimes when someone is going through a divorce and once that divorce is filed, some things that people may want to consider is, God forbid, something happens and one of the spouses dies, which has happened before, unless you've made certain changes or amendments to your power of attorney documents, or if you don't have a power of attorney document, that's something you may want to consider, or health designations, because if you don't make those changes, oftentimes people appoint their spouses and they may not want their spouse to make that decision if something happens. So that's a consideration out there. So my question to you, MCD, is, do you find yourself working with women from that capacity as well, who maybe have finalized their divorce and from an estate planning perspective? And if so, how is your strategy? And give a little bit of feedback to the audience for that.
Absolutely. Yeah, so that is one of the, if not the first, one of the first things that we look once the divorce is finalized. Because what we say, right, you file for divorce, you cannot make changes to most of these documents. The power of attorney, I do believe that at filing, it kind of gets revoked, just the power of attorney, I believe. And everything else is going to have to wait, right? You cannot make changes to beneficiaries, etc. Once the divorce is finalized, we don't have the conversation at that point. We are actually already having the conversation during the divorce process. We are starting to look at, okay, once all of this is finalized, what do you want to happen, right? You're going to want to likely remove your spouse, right? From beneficiary designations, from etc. So once the divorce is finalized, we already have a plan that is okay, let's just execute this plan at this point. So we look at things like beneficiary designations for every account, life insurance, 401k, IRS, etc. If you have a minor, right, needs to be protected. How we protect this? Who is going to be taking care of the assets if something happens to you and your kid is still a minor? So we look at absolutely everything. And at that point, we change beneficiary designations and we develop a full estate plan. I'm not an attorney, obviously, but I help my clients determine, okay, what is going to happen now? Now it's a full different story, right? Now you don't have a spouse. Who is going to take care of this? If you're ever incapacitated, even if it's temporarily, who is going to take care of your financials temporarily? Who is going to take care of you in the hospital if you cannot make decisions? And very important, what do you want to happen when you're no longer here? So we have all of those discussions and I help them think through scenarios, right? What if it's now versus in the future? right? Like if you are accumulating wealth, in most cases, it's not a great idea to give a big amount of wealth to your kid when they turn 18, right? So how do we protect that? Like, what do we do so the kids can benefit from it without being able to just burn through the money, right? And have them maybe figure it out throughout their life, how that is going to be impacting their life, etc. So we work through the entire process before even the divorce is final, so we just can execute at the time that the divorce is finalized. It's already clear, and then we can just get it done.
I like that. Yeah, being proactive is key. Yeah, for sure. And I oftentimes like to equate planning, especially for estate planning. Think of it like you're drowning in an ocean without having a plan in place. I know it's something that's not sexy. A lot of times people want to put it off until it's too late. You definitely don't want that situation. I went through it personally with guardianship and 2 years of probate litigation when my dad passed back in 2014. So that's why I'm passionate of helping families avoid that. But with an estate plan in place, it's like you're just coasting and you can relax in that ocean and enjoy life and live life to the fullest, because we only have one life to live, and it's best that we live it to the fullest. So thank you for sharing that. That was very, very awesome.
I couldn't agree more. It's all about planning, really. If you have a plan ahead, it just gives you so much peace of mind. Knowing that, well, life is life, but if something happens, I know that my family is going to be okay. I know that my assets are protected because you have earned it. You have worked so hard to get there, and you want your family to, to be protected and for them to enjoy your work too, So I think it's planning is the most important part. And estate planning is something that people don't like to talk about. Nobody likes to talk about, well, what happens to me if I die, But you're making your family a favor, just getting through the little bit of the uncomfortability and just think a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Share with the audience, do you have any upcoming projects that you...
A lot.
Yeah? Okay.
Well, I have good things.
Okay.
Some things I'm still debating if I'm going to take this step or not. But one of the things is I'm starting my own podcast.
Yeah. What's the name?
The name is not out yet.
Okay.
So I'll disclose it later.
Okay.
But it's me and another financial planner in California, a very good friend of mine. And we are very excited because we are talking to women that not necessarily have to be in the finance world, is from different stages in life, about their financial journey. How money, we don't like to think about money is important, but it is. And it influences your life. How the lack of having a lot of money has influenced their life, what opportunities they have or they have not have because of it, how having no money and then having money has changed their life. So it's a lot of fun. It's just a talk between friends. So that's something I'm very excited about. I just became a thought leader for, can I say the name?
Yes.
The Daily Drip. Yeah. So I'm very excited about that too.
I wanted to ask you, you mentioned earlier that you have a podcast coming out. So TBD audience, be on the lookout for Maria Castillo Dominguez, her podcast. And then you were talking about your first year in business, even though you've been in the industry for over 10 years. Can you share a little bit more about that with the audience?
Yes. So I have been in this industry for over 10 years, but I decided to start my own firm because I wanted to serve the professional women and focus on, and I work with couples too, as long as the women is in the financial decisions and the women is included. That is a very important, that's a non-negotiable for me.
That's awesome.
So this is my first year in business. So there is a lot going on. You have had your business, and people who are out there having business, there is a lot going on. So a lot of exciting things, a lot of things that I'm still considering if I want to do or not, but it's very exciting to be in business. You mentioned it earlier, Kristen, I would not change it for anything. It's scary, but it's also the most exciting thing to build something on your own and to work with the people that you really want to work and do it your way.
That's awesome. Very empowering. And I love, we love men as well. Both of us are married. Hi, Marlon. Love you. But I have 3 girls. and my oldest is 13, then 9 and 3. And being a business entrepreneur as a woman, especially raising daughters, I think is so empowering to them, because already my 13-year-old is even saying she is going to be a chef and a baker. She's going to have her own business. She's going to go to University of Miami, go Canes, my alma mater, major in business. And I'm just looking back at 13. I was just concerned about, I was a little bit of a nerd, still am, I guess, making straight A's and, having my friends, and that was it. But the forward thinking of children in general these days, and I think that a lot of that confidence and wanting to be a boss, wanting to be a business owner as a woman is very empowering. Yeah. So I wanted to share that as well.
Yeah, no, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. So thank you so much. I do have one last question for you. For the audience out there, Maria Castillo Dominguez, she's a financial wealth advisor. Please share with the audience where they could find you if they want to reach out for more questions, or if they want to work with you. She's awesome. She's knowledgeable. She's professional. If you want to share where I don't know if you're just licensed in Florida or if you're licensed in other states.
Yeah, I'm licensed in Florida.
Okay.
I can work with people in other states too.
Okay.
So my full name, Maria Castillo Dominguez. I'm very active in LinkedIn. You can also visit my website, www.valoriawealth.com. There is a link to all my social media there. That's why I'm bringing up my website. Instagram is the other one that I use to post videos, especially it's more short videos about financial tips for women related. So that's one of the things. And my email is maria@valoriawealth.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you
for being here.
Yeah, this was great.
So that is Maria Castillo Dominguez. Please reach out to her. Our next episode will be featuring Ellen Mitchell. She is a realtor skilled in probate and divorce, people going through transitions. So we'll be on the lookout for that. She will be on as a guest next time. But again, you've watched another episode of Civility Wins, the Family Law Edition. I am your host, Kristen Goss, founder and owner of KWG Family Legal and Mediation Services. We are your knowledgeable, warm, and gracious attorneys. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. Until we see you next time, take care.